Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast. I'm Catherine Haleko and I'm here with Terri Morrow. Say hi, Terri.
Hi there.
So usually on this podcast we talk about parenting issues, but once a week Terri and I like to get together to discuss TV, movies, books, and other entertainment topics because it's nice to talk about something other than parenting for a change. So this week we'll be discussing Dancing with the Stars, now in week 2 of the season, and we will continue our sports night rewatch or initial watch, however you want to call it. It feels weird calling it a marathon because it's not like we're doing it all in one
That's true.
day.
It's our sports night watch.
Yeah. So we'll continue with the most recent 4 episodes of that we watched. But first, we are going to cover the Emmy Awards, which happened on Sunday night.
Yes.
I unfortunately had to miss the red carpet, which is really the most fun part.
It is. I was putting out all these snappy comebacks on dresses, and there's nobody to agree with me. It was very lonesome.
Terri was tweeting away, and I was unable to participate until later on, until after the show had started. So that was a bummer. And even then, it was like one TV had to be on the Packer game, and then my son was like, I really want to watch The Simpsons. I'm like, oh my God, there's 12 billion episodes of The Simpsons.
I know. Go watch some on YouTube or something.
Right. So, but we did eventually get organized, and I got to watch most of it, and we tweeted it, and the show that I covered here on the podcast, The People vs. O.J. Simpson, did quite well, getting quite a few awards for the acting and for didn't they get like best series, limited series or something?
Yes, I think so. Whatever it is we call those things that it is, it got best of that.
Like we don't want to use the word mini-series anymore. Apparently.
I've just stopped caring about the categories at the Emmys because they're so weird. So
Yes, it was called, the category was Outstanding Limited Series.
Okay.
So the only one I think that they showed, I mean, I'm sure there were lots more there could have been during that pre-Emmys that they have, like a week early. But there was
2 nights of pre-Emmys.
There was a directing award or maybe it was a writing award. Anyway, there was one that they didn't get. So, which went to The Night Manager. Yes. Outstanding direction.
You've actually done research and everything for our little talk tonight, haven't you?
Well, I just have a list in front of me. So, I mean, it seemed like kind of a happy evening, a happy crowd, like well dressed, and people were generally pleased with who was winning. Although I did start to get tired of hearing about Game of Thrones because they started winning a whole bunch of them in a row.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a big long night of shows I've never watched. I try to keep up on pop culture enough that I know what they are and know why people like them, and that's perfectly fine. And there are fewer and fewer nominees that I've even seen, so I don't have that same whenever Amy Poehler was up, I really wanted her to win because she was somebody I knew. Right. And she never did. But now there's not even that particularly. I have so much trouble keeping up with TV, and the stuff that I keep up with is never stuff that gets nominated, and rightly so. So, the stakes are really, really low for me.
Right. You're not going to be all devastated.
And just to see. I do think, I mentioned this in a tweet, that it would be helpful for the Emmys to institute some limits. Yes. I think that there should be a limit as to how many times one person can win the same award for the same role. Let's just give Julia Louis-Dreyfus a crown and Excellence for Life award, and then other people get to win,
Right, because I like her, and I think she's a great actress. I've never actually seen Veep, but I know people love it. But I feel like she's won every Emmy and Golden Globe every year for that.
I mean, I think that at some point it gets embarrassing, but she keeps putting herself in for it, or somebody keeps putting her in for it. So it just, since it's the same shows year after year, as opposed to the Oscars or the Tonys where it's different productions, they need to find a way to spread the wealth a little bit.
Right.
So, okay, on one night, maybe you're going to have Game of Thrones winning everything, but then next year, they're not under consideration. It's just like you have to turn in your chip.
Right, because
somebody else gets a turn.
It's not something that happens with the Oscars or usually even the Tonys. I mean, I suppose it could happen with the Tonys. I don't know. But the Golden Globes and only the TV parts of the Golden Globes would this happen. So, it's something they need to deal with.
Emmy voters in particular, I think, even more than Golden Globe voters. I mean, I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about. But I think Emmy voters in particular get in a rut where they just get used to giving it to the same person. And so they just automatically do. Yeah. And that's just, it makes for a less fun evening. And I mean, even if it's a show I like, I probably would be happier to see them get it again and again. But even then, it gets to a point where you just want to say, all right, we're putting your framed portrait up on the wall. You are in the gallery.
Right. Now we're going to move on and see if somebody else maybe could get a chance.
All the reviews I read, people seem to be really, really happy with who won the awards. The ones that they didn't like were overshadowed by the ones that they did. People seem to have liked Kimmel as a host. I was not among them, but I was sort of chagrined to look around this morning and find everybody saying what a great job he did and could he maybe do the Oscars too.
Oh dear.
So, wow. I've never been a fan of his, and nothing I saw and the Emmys made me want to change my mind about that. Some of the bits were fine. The opening thing, which you missed, was fine. He was going from car to car trying to get to the, awards, and each car had characters from a different show. It didn't seem like something I'd never seen before, but it was perfectly good. I mean, the bit with Matt Damon was funny. I enjoyed it, although things in an awards show that are about the host sort of bother me. And every time, and then there was the thing with the distributing of the peanut butter sandwiches, and making jokes about gluten allergies and peanut allergies. Now, some people seem to think that the peanut allergy joke was a slam at EpiPen prices, which I think is extremely charitable interpretation. Because to me, it's like, hey, I am handing out this toxic substance to you and everybody around you, and if you die, darn it, it's because EpiPens are so expensive.
Right, not because I handed it out in the first place.
Who told you to fill an auditorium with peanut butter?
Right.
So it just did not sit well with me at all. And every time there is one of these extended bits in the middle of an awards show, I think, gee, I would have liked to hear Aziz Ansari be able to give his acceptance speech instead of getting played off. Gee, it would have been nice if somebody other than Ryan Murphy got to say something about the, what was it? That was the People versus O.J. Simpson, right? Yeah. All the people who get played off at this great moment of their lives so that we can do a 5-minute pass out lunch bag bit.
Right.
It's just
really not necessary.
It really isn't.
Yeah, there was one where it was like outstanding show, or I forget which one it was, but it was like a really big award, and they were just awful about cutting off the people and going to commercial.
As amusing as it was to see Matt Damon, and he does great with that needling of Jimmy Kimmel bit. I've seen him do it a few times. I would have rather heard people make boring speeches, because that's what it's about.
Right.
It's not about but that's an old complaint that goes on over and over. But boy, did that Cosby joke fall flat.
Ugh.
Horrified faces in the room.
Right, and I was angrily composing a tweet when when I realized that it was not actually happening. But I was like, you have got to be kidding me. And well, in fact, yes, he was kidding.
It was obviously not going to happen. It was obviously a joke, but it was a bad joke.
Yeah. I mean, that's just not funny.
Yeah, it's really not. And so, it was fine. It was, as Emmy shows go, it was fine. My highlight of the night is Tommy Kail winning for Best Direction of Grease, because
Right.
I have a personal relationship to that show being the thing that got me down, into Hamilton, which thanks to you. But also it felt like somebody I know, quote, no unquote,
Right. Right.
winning for something I watched.
Yes.
So, yay!
Yes.
A lot of people seemed upset that Beyonce lost, that it should have been Beyonce. But I remember when Grease Live was on, and everybody was talking about how amazingly the direction was on it.
Right.
So that's a legit award, and stop it. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I also feel that as long as we're making rules about award limits, I would like to take the song Hallelujah and put it in a vault. Moratorium on the singing of that song for 10 years.
For the in memoriam section.
So for anything,
Right.
it has just been, nobody gets to sing it on The Voice. Nobody gets to sing it on anything. We're putting it away.
Right.
10 years from now, we will take it out and it will be moving once again instead of just
this one again.
But I don't know if you could, how many of the dresses you were able to appreciate during the actual ceremony, since you missed the red carpet. But I was extremely gratified to notice an uptick in the number of dresses that seem to have been selected with a thought to, I'm going to have to sit in this for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I applaud Hollywood actresses and stylists. I will take credit for that because they're listening to my list.
Yes, they're paying attention to the Morrow 10-point scale.
Yes, crew necks and reasonable sized straps. I noticed. Felicity Huffman had a very beautiful one, and the off the shoulder ones had nice sturdy off the shouldery straps. Well done, ladies.
Right. So we weren't spending our whole evening worried about them.
Yes. Well, but of course, there were still the people who are relying heavily on double-sided tape to keep them away from a wardrobe malfunction.
Right.
Or Sarah Paulson, her shoulders must have been so sore from being held back the entire night. I was nervous for her. That was like, that cannot be comfortable.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look that good.
Well, she was getting a lot of praise for that dress.
She was, but it's not practical.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, I don't know. They seem to wear them, so somebody must think that they're attractive. I really don't want to see that much of your torso. But so
that was the Emmys.
And that was the other thing about the passing out sandwiches is, number one, most of those dresses are so tight, they're not going to eat a sandwich. Mm-hmm. And number two, do you want to get crumbs on that
on your double-sided tape?
Yeah, exactly. There's the fancy dress. There's the fancy fabric. There's the folds all around the neckline, artfully arranged. Somebody said that their dress had been wrapped around them as they stood there. And you're going to eat a peanut butter sandwich wearing that? I really don't think you are. So,
all the designers must have been cringing in their viewing parties.
Plus, as you said somewhere, you feel so sorry for them that this endless night with nothing to eat.
Right.
It's really only 3 hours.
And it wouldn't be endless if they didn't have stupid bits about giving them peanut butter sandwiches.
Yeah, it reminds me of...
And if they didn't, some of them seem to get there 2 hours early, and I don't know how that all works.
They did have the red carpet, but I also do feel it's possible for an adult to go even 5 or 6 hours without a snack.
not this adult. I would be very grouchy.
But I believe they go take trips to the bar, so perhaps they have some. They
should have. I mean, and you could
snacks.
like throw a granola bar in your tiny purse. Come on.
Your tiny purse. Yes, your emergency granola bar.
Yes, I always have one of those.
It just reminds me of how in school now we can't expect kids to get from arrival to lunch without a snack in the middle.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
So we can't expect our celebrities to go through a grueling
Apparently
3 hours
not.
of sitting in a room.
With a tight dress on.
Exactly.
I mean, then you're not hungry, right?
Well, that's true. You
wedged
can't,
into that.
I don't believe you could digest in some of those outfits. But I'm just imagining, Sarah Paulson having to like, fish breadcrumbs out from under.
She doesn't seem like the type of person who would eat a peanut butter sandwich.
I doubt she ate a peanut butter sandwich. I got to think that it went home with her, perhaps.
Yes, as a little souvenir.
That's right.
But she had an actual Emmy to take home.
She did.
Yes.
She did. She doesn't need your lousy peanut butter sandwiches, Jimmy Kimmel.
So we congratulate her and the other winners, and then we move on, I think, from the Emmy to the Mirror Ball trophy.
Something similarly sparkly and inconsequential.
That's right. So Dancing with the Stars, we are watching this current season, and Monday evening, the day after the Emmys, we had another episode of dancing with all of the couples still in it for the moment.
There's a lot of them.
Which
I kept thinking, oh my gosh, there's still all those people left.
Right, we're not
we just
done
see like
yet.
25 dances.
Right.
These early weeks just are sort of endless.
But as I was saying last week, I kind of like that because then there's not as much filler.
That's true.
Which is junky.
Yes.
So there's mostly
true.
dancing. And as we record this, we do not know who is going to be going home because they're going to have a results show tomorrow.
So we'll add something to the to our show notes indicating who actually went home. I have a pretty good guess, but we will see.
Okay.
I think it's got to be Jake, don't you?
That was pretty bad.
He provides no evidence whatsoever that he wants to be there at all.
Right.
And it was, as I believe you said last week, he has no game at all.
No.
And, he danced to a song that said, go, 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 which pretty much summed up my feelings.
Right. Go on out of here. Exactly.
I think the combination is complete lack of enthusiasm, plus the fact that I don't think he has much of a voting block because my daughter, who was eager to vote for him, watched him dance once and said, "Nah."
Yeah.
And Jenna's a new pro, so.
And he's also not good at all. I mean,
he's also not good at all.
They weren't together. They just, it was.
Yeah. I mean,
it was sloppy.
You can be bad and stick around for a while if you have the proper spirit, as I think Rick does. I mean, I think that he would stay probably even longer if he didn't have the political thing, because there's some people who just hate his politics and will vote him off.
Right.
But, at least he knows what show he's on. He knows why he's there. He knows what's required.
Right. He has plenty of enthusiasm, and he's selling it way better.
Jake just does not.
Right.
That was a bad miscalculation on somebody's part. The show's part and his agent's part, probably.
Right.
Your kid is a stiff,
Let's just accept that and move on.
I can't think he'll be too disappointed
it doesn't
to be put out of his misery.
Right. I mean, I fully agree with what you said last week, that he's this season's Misha Barton.
Yes, he is.
Completely unable to hide his lack of interest.
Yeah. So I expect he will go. Could be Rick, but I expect it'll be Jake, because I don't think Jake has any, because of the voting block thing.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Nobody else is that egregious.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I thought that, like, the very first one was Maureen McCormick, and she still had that, like, oh, my gosh, I can't believe I'm here thing going on, which is irritating. I thought her dance looked a little better.
But it's just, now this is something I was talking to some friends, we were chatting on Facebook during the show, as to there's so much stuff now. This is the second week, and they've got the whole troupe with them, and they've got props, and they've got, all this stuff. Seems excessive. I'm trying to remember. I mean, haven't watched it from the beginning, but it seems like the early dances were much more simple at one time. Okay. I don't know why they really need all of that stuff. My one friend said that she thinks that just a whole 2 hours of just dancing would be boring, but I don't think so. I think it could be.
You think the people need it because
there's so many different dancers. There's different styles of dancers, different styles of music. I think you could fill up 2 hours without all the. I mean, I guess there's some dancers who just really can't cut it, and so you want to disguise that as much as possible.
Right.
But it's just, I don't think it's really all that helpful. And then there's people who are good dancers who I would rather just watch them. I would rather just watch Lori dance a dance without
all the extra stuff.
Duck costume and the stuff on her shoes and all the people dancing with her and all of that stuff. I thought that really took away. I mean, I guess James has been racing, so he didn't have enough time to do a full dance or whatever, and so they needed zombies. I don't know. I just think it detracts. It bothers me a little bit.
Too much production.
It seems over the top for this point in the season. But, that ship has sailed, obviously.
Right.
I guess Maureen danced okay. It was hard to see with all the... I kept being distracted from the fact that the backup dancers looked nothing at all like the rest of the Brady Bunch.
I know, and
Why
it was
aren't
like,
all you girls wearing blonde wigs? What is the matter? It's right there in the song.
Right, and was Maureen supposed to be playing the mom?
She said,
but
she
then
was
Florence Henderson was there.
She was not dressed very Marsha-like.
No, she wasn't. It was.
Honestly, remember how Marsha dressed?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't hang together as a thing. I mean, sure, it was like a fun little gimmick that they had Florence Henderson there, but I don't know. Yeah. But now, the football player who played Urkel, and then they brought back Urkel. That actually was pretty. I thought it was funny. I think that guy is charming. He just is fun.
Yes, the football player.
Yeah.
Urkel was. You didn't watch the season that Urkel was actually on as a contestant. He was not charming. No. But he seems like really good spirited. I thought Lindsay kind of messed up some footwork. I couldn't quite tell if it was just because he's so much taller and it threw her off a little bit or what. But her stuff didn't seem perfect to me. But all in all, I mean, it was a fun enough dance. He seems fine.
You do not seem very enthused.
Well, there's like people I really, really like and people I really, really think are going to be the first 2 or 3 to go. And then there's just kind of a wide middle range. It's okay.
Well, and I also feel like it's already so obvious that it's Lori's to lose.
Yeah, that makes me a little nervous for her. But
it also makes me feel like what's in it for anybody? Like we're just watching for an inevitable conclusion.
Yeah, I don't know. I see a lot of people online liking James quite a bit and thinking that he could be somebody who will swoop in and win.
A dark horse. Okay.
Yes, the dark horse, which I would be sad for Lori not to win, but I would be happy for Charlotte to get her first Mirror Ball trophy. So that would be some...
Right, that would be some consolation for you.
It was very similar the season that Meryl was in, I think, because she was far and away obviously better and obviously had the background. And, there were some contenders and there was some question as to how it was going to go, but it felt really sort of, I think, the same way.
Right.
And I think they did some, it was a long time ago, I can't really remember, but I feel like some of her early scores were a little lower than one might expect.
Just to try to keep the drama going.
Keep the drama a little, or at least try to say, hey, we recognize that you're at a different level, so we're going to score you more harshly. But that was still a good and enjoyable season to watch. So I think this can be too.
Yeah.
And there certainly will be to see who gets to the finals. And I hope, Lori, she's great. And she's so adorable. And she has such a performance quality. And yeah, it feels like it's hers to lose. But she's also going to be flying all the heck over the country because she's on this gymnastics tour. And
she's in high school.
Yes, well, she's homeschooled, but so I imagine she's getting it as she goes along. But at some point, there's a possibility that she's going to get sick or she's going to get tired. 16-year-old.
Yes. She's
obviously got a ton of energy, but it could take a toll at some point.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But I'm sure rooting for her, and I enjoy her so much. She seems like a really grounded young person.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see anybody else particularly stand out. I thought everybody else was just fine. I thought Tara was much better this time.
Yes.
I liked the dress they had on her, and I thought that they did things very well, and they did do a hold, such as it was. And and Sasha is really, really cute. Yeah. I really like him. And so...
Yeah.
And, babyface Allison continues her trend of just dancing around her partners.
Yeah, I felt like that one was overscored. Did you?
I did.
I didn't think there was anything terribly wrong with it, but I was like, oh, really? That's what you're
the scoring was sort of illogical today. I didn't really get much of it. Jake was scored way too high. He was very similar to some people who were much better.
Yeah.
So I don't know what was up with that. But the rest of them were fine.
Yeah.
As well as they were. It'll be interesting to see as we go along. I think some will stay at the same level and some will start to rise, I guess.
Right. I think you're right.
But we'll be interested to see who winds up in the bottom tomorrow. I would be very, very surprised if it was not Jake.
Yes. Well, we will see, and we will continue to discuss it every week until that mirror ball gets handed out. But we're going to move on now to... we're going to make this short.
Yes.
Because we've been talking a lot. But Sports Night we've been watching, and the 4 episodes that we watched for today were The Quality of Mercy at 29K, Shoe Money Tonight, The 6 Southern Gentlemen of Tennessee, and Smoky. So I personally liked the middle 2 of these more than the first and fourth. The first one, The Quality of Mercy at 29K, it had to do with them following a group of mountaineers who were trying to summit Everest, and then there was this whole side plot about Dan wanting to find a good charity to give his money to, and there was this incredibly overblown, stupid thing where a homeless person just happened to turn up right inside Dan's office, which
was pretty.
Give me a break.
Yes, I like that plot mostly for the exchange between Dan and Natalie, where he's asking her what she does with her money, and she says,
she's like, "I pay my rent."
Pretty much tied up in food and shelter.
Right.
That was good. And,
yes.
And then there's a side plot of Dana just going crazy over the Lion King, which probably the less said about, the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that one didn't do a lot for me.
Wacky Dana, wonderful at her job, kind of loony with everything else, which is not that appealing to me. Shoe Money Tonight has the wonderful monologue of Jeremy trying to talk Natalie into folding in poker and doing this whole story that has everybody captivated, and then she does not go for it. Right. But I always enjoy watching that. I think that Joshua Malina does that very well. But I seem to remember, I don't know if it was mentioned on the West Wing Weekly or an article I read, that he had been proposing to Aaron Sorkin that Jeremy should be bluffing.
Yeah, I kind of thought he was going to be. I thought that would have been more interesting, maybe. I don't know, because I didn't necessarily want him to be right in that instance.
Yeah, I like it because I like him and I like the two of them, and I always enjoy it. But I was reading something, maybe it was Sepinwall's blog or comments somewhere saying that they wished that Jeremy had been wrong and that Natalie did in fact have the cards to beat him, and then she had she was putting him in his place.
Right.
Yeah, I like it the way it is. I like it just fine. And this is starting to come into the rise of Sally as a character, who is just... I'm with Dana on this one. I really can't stand her.
Don't care for Sally.
She's really pretty awful.
She is the producer of the West Coast update that comes on after Sports Night. So...
And a couple of, we'll talk a little bit more about her when we get to Smoky, but the Six Southern Gentlemen of Tennessee is where Isaac kind of has to struggle with his concerns about keeping his job versus doing the right thing. And we know,
right,
our people always do the right thing.
and he does get that really good line where he says something like, you can't just look at me as the black voice of, what does he say? Like
the something of all things black. I can't think what it is.
Yeah, the arbiter, or the commenter, whatever it is, which is a great line and a really good point, I think.
Yes.
But yes, of course we know that that will not
and
stop
does so
him.
very well. But that episode also has what I remember more fondly even is Janelle Maloney, who plays Donna on The West Wing, coming in as the wardrobe supervisor's assistant, I guess, and really very sweetly putting Casey in his place for having pretended like he shows his own tie when he's on The View, or not denied it when they complimented him on the way he dresses.
Right, not giving any credit to the wardrobe department when he had the chance to do so.
Yes. So she comes in and very does a very nice job of lecturing him on it, and then he winds up at the end of the next show, he remembers everybody's names and does this big thing, which right, I like it. It works on me, even as I recognize it's pulling my heartstrings.
Right. Yeah, there's some good on-air show within a show stuff going on, I guess I would say, in these episodes.
Yes. And then we get to Smoky, which is Dan has decided that Casey is ready to get back out there and date, but unfortunately the person he seems to be flirting with is Sally, who Dan is pretty sure is an alien of some sort, which I think he kind of has a point. So, an android, perhaps.
Right.
But yeah, we're heading into dangerous territory there, and then Casey is practicing flirting with Dana and calls her Smoky, which she is happy about.
Right, very taken by in a strange way.
Yeah. And then there's a wonderful scene which has, I think the line I remember second most fondly of this show, of Isaac has told Dana in confidence that his job might be in trouble. And Dana has told Natalie in confidence about it because she wasn't supposed to tell anybody.
Right.
And, of course, immediately the word gets out all over the place. So Isaac calls them into the conference room and says, Dana, when I tell you something, it's not supposed to go anywhere. And Dana says, well, I only told, Natalie's my second in command. I only told her. And Natalie says, well, Jeremy's my boyfriend, and I only told him. And Jeremy says, I told many, many people.
Yes.
I really like that, and often think of using that line to people who will have no idea what I'm talking about.
Right, just completely out of context. It's excellent.
One of my faves. The most remembered line from Sports Night is coming up on our next 4 episodes.
Okay. Which are?
You'll know it when we come to it.
Okay, so the next 4 that we'll talk about next week are called Small Town, Rebecca, Dana and the Deep Blue Sea, and Sally, as we've been talking about Sally. So those are for next week. Also next week on the podcast, we will talk about Dancing with the Stars again. And because we are going to kind of try to keep pace with the West Wing Weekly podcast, they are not quite into discussing season 2 yet, so we are going to leave that off of our schedule for next week as well. So we'll do dancing, we'll do sports night, and we'll talk about some of the new fall TV shows that are premiering this week.
Going to try to catch up with a few of those.
Yeah.
Since I feel like we've seen relentless commercials for everything on ABC's schedule between the Emmys and Dancing with the Stars. It was like, oh my gosh. Enough. Yeah. Even though I'm very happy to see them pushing Speechless, but wow.
So we'll check out a couple shows and talk about those next week, and that's going to be it for round 2 today. So please subscribe to our Parenting Roundabout podcast so you won't miss any of our episodes, including our daily speed rounds and our weekly group chats. As always, you can find recaps, links, and an opportunity to comment on our website at parentingroundabout.com. Goodbye, Terri.
Goodbye, Catherine.
Bye, everyone.